What's going on, everyone? You're back with your boy Jono for another quick math lesson. Today we're going to have a look at stem and leaf plots, and this is another one of our data displays that we have to be on top of in order to find out really important information from a whole bunch of statistics. So the point of all of these data displays is that we want to make the data look as accessible as possible. We want to be able to kind of flick a glance at these numbers and be able to take something meaningful from the numbers that are shown. So stem and leaf kind of sounds like a weird name for a data display, but I want you to actually think about a leaf, and then we might be able to kind of see what we're talking about when we're talking about these data displays. So this leaf that I've drawn, maybe not the best in the world, but I thought it was all right. The stem goes through the middle. We know that. The stem goes straight through the middle, and that's what's going to happen on our data displays. The leaf is the bit that goes around the outside of the stem. It shoots off from it. So the stem kind of anchors the whole thing, and then the leaf adds a little bit more color and context to the entire thing. You don't really need to know that, but I do just want you to have that in your mind as we rip into these data displays. The stem, the middle bit, is really important, and the leaf adds a little bit more detail to the numbers that we're getting. So the stem and leaf plot is made up of two parts. The stem, like we just saw from my great drawing, that's what goes through the middle. And the number that's given here is what we call the leading number. I would usually say the tens, but it also works for the hundreds and tens. It's going to be the first number or the first two numbers in your display. And then the leaf is what's on the side. And it's always going to be the last digit of your number. So it's kind of the ones column for this. Okay, so all we need to know is that the stem, the middle number, is what you write down first, and then the leaf goes at the end. So the stem is the first column with the one number that doesn't have kind of a list going on. And then the leaf is the other side. So a question like this, you could have to look at the stem and leaf plot and tell me the measures of center that we've talked about before. Just before we get into that, we need to know what each number actually means. So that first one, we've got an 8 in its column by itself, and right next to it a 4. So what this means is that this number is not 8.4, but 84. So 84, the first number, the 8, always goes at the start, and then the leaf goes at the end. So I'm just going to write a couple of these on. We've got 84, we've got a couple of 97s, and then we've got 100 down the bottom. So that 100 is why we can't say that the stem is just the tens. It's both the first numbers. So it's 10 and an extra 0, so it's 100 at the end there. So we've got to find these four measurements of these data sets, and I'm going to start with the easiest two. We're going to start with the range and the mode. So the range is the highest number minus the lowest number. So 100 is our biggest minus the 84 at the very start, and this is just equal to 16. That is our answer. So a question like this is really just saying, hey, can you read the stem and leaf plot? If yes, you get a mark. The mode is also incredibly easy. I can see straight away that I've got 3 97s, so that is the answer. Some of my students do make a mistake here and they just write 7. Make sure that you are including the stem in your answer. It has to be 97, not just 7. So one of the best things about the stem and leaf plot is that it's incredibly easy to find the median. Because everything is already lined up for you in ascending order, you can just use the old trick where you get rid of the lowest and the highest number every single time. So to start off, if I get rid of this 84 and 100, cross them off. Then you just move down the list, going through the top and the bottom number each time until you reach a point where you've got either two numbers or one number. In this one, I've got two numbers left over, the 92 and 93. So the median is in between those two numbers, which is 92.5. If you don't like doing that method and you'd prefer to use the formula, I've got 10 scores in this data set. So if I go 10 plus 1 divided by 2, that answer is 5.5. That means that the 5.5th score is our median. So if I count up the first 5, then it's after that 5th point, which is, again, in between the 92 and the 93. If I wanted to use my kind of average formula, I use 92 plus 93 divided by 2, and that is equal to 92.5. Either way, you get the same answer for the median. It is good to practice using that formula, but if you are struggling in a test situation, just cross them off, making sure that you take your time to go top, bottom, Otherwise, you will find it hard to get a mark if you get out of order. And then for this last one, we've got to find the average. So we're going to use our calculator here. We've got to add up all the scores, which I'm going to do right now, and then hit equal on your calculator. This gives you the total kind of value of all the scores together. And then we have to divide it by 10, the number of scores there are. So this 920 is just divided by 10, giving us the average of 92. This makes sense. That is in the middle of our data set. So we know that it's a really good kind of estimation. Remember, you have to hit equals first if you're not going to use a fraction on your calculator. Otherwise, you're going to get a really, really big number that's not correct. Have a guess first and then let your calculator do the work so you're not left out getting no marks for something you do know how to do. So the other types of questions you're going to get with these stem and leaf plots are you will have to kind of create your own. So in this example here, we've got data sets maybe from a class. We've got class A and they got these scores in their test. And we want to order them in a stem and leaf plot. So to start off, what we do have to do is put our stems down. So these are the big numbers at the start. So we know we've got numbers in the 20s, we know we've got numbers in the 30s. So let's put them down first. So we must have a 2 and a 3 in order to get this right. From here, we just have to fill in the information. I would highly recommend going slow and crossing off each one as you do it, just so you don't miss any double ups when you've got a larger data set. But apart from that, it's pretty easy. Keep them evenly spaced so your teacher can give you a mark straight away. And that's all there is to it. So I know there's a 26, so the 6 has to go right there. Then there's a 28 as well, so I've got an 8 here. 2 30s means that I've got 30, 30, and finally 34. So I had 5 up the top, just making sure, ticking them off as I go. And I've got 5 in my stem and leaf plot, so I must be right. One thing that is really important is that the lowest number, right, the lowest last digit, or the 30, for example, goes closest to the stem. As it gets bigger, we go further away. So this is a really good way to make sure you've got it right. Just make sure all your numbers are ascending away from your stem. One of the best things about these stem and leaf plots is it's really easy to compare 2 data sets at the exact same time. So let's say there's another class and these are their scores for the exact same test. If we wanted to compare them, we could just put them into stem and leaf plots next to each other so we can immediately see where more values kind of fall. So as long as you've got the stem in the middle, this is exactly the same as we did just then, except this time it's going to be on the other side. So these 2-pronged stem and leaf plots are not more difficult at all. Sometimes they look a little bit harder and my students like freak out, but they're exactly the same thing. We do just have to make sure we account for all the values that could happen. So in this class B, we got lower marks, we got some in the teens, but we also got a 40. So I need to add those stems into my data set. So once I got that 1 and the 4 down, I do the exact same thing. Just remembering the smallest leaves go closest to the stem. So if we go through it, the 13 has to be closer than the 17. And that's really the only difference, is that it's going the other way. Pretty cruisy. Then I've got a 29, a 31, and a 40. So if you were asked to compare these 2 data sets just kind of based immediately off their spread, you would say that class A had more marks bunched up together and class B had a wider range. And this is something you could do incredibly quickly off the stem and leaf plot, which might not be as obvious just from the numbers lined up in a row. And that's why these data displays are important. Being able to take important information out of data really quickly is something that can help you communicate your knowledge or understanding about a topic to a wide range of people incredibly effectively. Thanks so much for watching this lesson, guys, and I'll see you later.